Hello CCers, I am your local SkyeRanger. I am putting this together as a tutorial for all of you to better understand how Fishsticks works. This was a request, well actually it was a request to the community that got positive responses back that I'm going to go over as a more complete, up-to-date guide on how Fishsticks works. I did one of these in the past. It was about 45 minutes long, and it discussed a whole bunch of different things, and it got kind of confusing. And Fishsticks has had a considerable number of updates since then. So now we're going to take a look at what all of this is and how most of it's going to work, and try and make sure that everything makes sense. So for those of you that don't know what's going on, CC is... you know what CC is, but Fishsticks is CC's official Discord bot. He's found over here under the bot commands, or bot sections, as your general computer overlord. Chances are that when you joined the community, Fishsticks sent you a greeting and a crash pad, and sent you a DM. But most importantly, once you're in and you start, interacting with the community, start gaming, there's a lot of commands and a lot of things that Fishsticks does that you might want to know more about. So I'm putting this together to try and cover all those ends. We're going to start looking at the wiki first, because most of your questions can be answered by visiting the wiki and the Fishsticks info channel. Some of you probably already found this or were introduced to it when you joined. This is a synopsis of pretty much all the highlights of what Fishsticks is going to do. But we're going to go over the wiki, which is the link for is found right here, and the command listing, so that everybody understands what's going on, because this is the most complete and up-to-date documentation for the most part on how Fishsticks works. So if you got a question, you can go there and look and see what's up. This actually needs to be updated, so I'm going to do that right now. I'm looking at it. So Fishsticks used to work on prefixed commands. So that means that you would type in an exclamation point like you're on a source server or something, and you would type in the command and it would do something. That's no longer the case. Now, as of version 19, Fishsticks uses slash commands, and parameters or hyphenated parameters are a thing of the past, which is sweet, because it's a lot easier to work with. And that's mostly what we're going to be talking about today. So now that that is updated, we can update this real fast. And then we're going to go look at the wiki. Right. So when you first go into the Fishsticks wiki, this is the page that you're presented with. This is his general, just all-around information page. Gives you a short history, kind of a description, and then goes through all of the build numbers. I have yet to add version 19 as of the creation of this video, but basically the gist of it is I added a handful of little features, but most importantly slash commands. So yeah, we can go and look at the general guide, which definitely needs to be updated because all of this stuff still uses the prefix. But the content here is still mostly correct. And when I say that, I mean that all the header titles and stuff in the description is fairly accurate. So Fishsticks uses two command types, what I call active and passive commands. Active commands are those that you have to go out of your way to make sure that you're running. These, before version 19, were called, or were prefixed with an exclamation point. Now they're simply slash commands, basically. Passive commands are anything that Fishsticks would trigger or react to that don't require a prefix or a slash command. So typing in hi or hello will provoke some sort of greeting back from Fishsticks. And those are called passive commands. And there's a handful of them, and we'll go over those just in a second. Subroutines have kind of taken a back seat since I implemented them back in, I don't know how long, I guess, whatever, version 12, something like that. Basically what they are, or were, were a subset of, basically, there were things that Fishsticks would do that were grouped together, and you could turn those groups on or off. So, for example, there's currently an XP system in Fishsticks. So if you type in a message, you get a certain amount of XP, and you can level up off of getting enough XP. That group, that system, would be called a subroutine, and you used to be able to turn those on and off, and now subroutines are basically just non-existent. The only subroutine that truly exists are when I'm testing Fishsticks and I run them with a test parameter out of the console when I'm developing. All right, but most importantly, syntax and execution. Like I said, most things were prefixed, and you could just simply type exclamation point help, and it would present, you know, the help guide. Now it's just /help. What's really handy is that / commands come with autofill, and we'll look at that in a second. So a lot of what you're looking for will be predefined for you to look at. Each command, there's a good chance it's going to have a parameter. In the documentation from here, if you're looking at this, parameters that are in angle brackets are optional and do not need to be, or are not essential to the part of the command. Those in square brackets are required. So if you're looking through the command documentation, which we'll look at in a second, if you see that, that's what those mean. Optional, required. If you run a / command in Discord, which we'll also look at in a second, it will tell you what's required. Chances are it'll actually pre-fill what's required, and then you'll have a list of things that you can add on to it at the end that are optional, that aren't required. All right, and finally, handlers. You can go and look at these in more detail on the handlers page here. But basically, they're the logic processors in the back that handle incoming commands and how to do certain things. It's basically just the little sub-node brains of Fishsticks. Right, moving on, let's go look at the command listing. This is probably what you're going to be looking at the most if you're not looking at the help documentation for short descriptions, or just, you know, using your context clues and inferencing what commands do based on just looking at them and what they might do when you start typing them in. This will give you everything you possibly need to know about any of the commands in here. This is the one page that I keep constantly up to date for the most part. Everything in here is currently wrong because I haven't touched it since version 19's release, which was, I don't know, 2 months ago, something like that. But everything that isn't a prefix or a hyphen is still completely relevant. So you are welcome to look at this because version 19 didn't change the nature of most of these commands. Some of them got removed, but I think they were already marked as deprecated anyway. But that's the most of it. Some new options have actually been added to some commands, like enroll. But yeah, if you have a question about a command, or you want to make sure you understand how it works, or maybe find out you know, any additional information, like the TempCH tutorial video that I made, they're going to be listed here. So you're more than welcome to look at it. I believe I updated everything with the passive commands. So if you type in any one of these things just randomly without a / it's gonna print out what it says. You know, that's just how it works. Right. Anyway, now that we're done finagling with that, let's go look at Discord. So this is the Fishsticks info page. A lot of this is self-explanatory. Gives you basic rundown. You know, most of the highlight commands are here. And then you can also, there's also a little help blurb here. If you just can't find what you're looking for on the wiki, or if you find some bug or something, you can just DM me, ping me, whatever. Chances are I'm going to see it and I'm going to answer you, or at least get back to you within some amount of time, and try to cater to whatever you're looking for. Right. Let's go down to the Fishsticks console. So this is where all of the Fishsticks jazz occurs. I do all my development down here to try and keep spam down. So, I mean, most people probably have this channel muted for good reason. But it's just where I do most of my things. So we're going to just take a jaunt at this and try to hit everything you might need to know about running Fishsticks commands. So most importantly, everything is done with a / except for passive commands. /. So once you do that, you're going to see a whole bunch of stuff show up. Most of this, well, that's a lie. Half of it's going to be from Discord. It'll say built-in over here on the side. Some of it might be from other bots. So if you go into another Discord server that has bots with /commands, then you'll be able to see those commands in that what Discord calls a guild, that server. But the ones that we'll be talking about are the ones that obviously say Fishsticks on the side here. Right. So let's just go with something simple. Creative. So when you're going through the list, if you haven't seen what the description is just by looking at it, so you have little descriptors on the bottom. If you hover over it, it'll tell you what the name of the game is. You can also use your arrow keys, up and down arrow keys, to just toggle through this. And you can hit tab to autofill the statement. A lot of you from Bible study already know what the Bible command is and how it works. But the gist of it is pretty simple, and we'll look at that in a second. So let's do help. So if we type /H and then tab into help, we can hit enter and add that, and then right here it'll tell you what it's going to do. You hit enter and Fishsticks does a thing and prints out this giant list. And you may notice right here that this message looks a little bit different. That's because Fishsticks is replying directly to you as an ephemeral message. An ephemeral means that it's been printed to the channel, but only you can see it. For the longest time, only Discord official messages were sent like this. So if you were in a DM, for example, or like a DM voice call, and someone left the channel and it was just you in there, I think after 5 minutes, I think the limit is, it would kick you out and then send you an ephemeral message. That was the first time that anybody ever saw it. But basically, all Discord bots now all have that functionality, and I've incorporated that into Fishsticks in order to help reduce spam. Previously, he would just send the message and then delete it after some amount of time. And people were like, oh, the list doesn't stay up long enough, or something like that. And I was just tired of changing it, so we just made everything ephemeral. So now you can delete it when you want. Anyway, as of version 19, this is new. All the command descriptors are dynamic. So every command in Fishsticks, or accessible by Fishsticks, now has their own descriptor that at the time of running /help, Fishsticks will go and grab from that command, that module in Node, and print to this list. So if I go into the code and update it somewhere, I don't have to go search through some giant text list to change something. I can just change the one command, and that'll fix everything. But yeah, this will give you a brief description of everything. If you want more detailed commands, you can do /codex and then the command ID. Now, probably in a future version, command ID won't just be a string parameter that you have to type some piece of text into. It'll probably be a pre-filled choice list that you can select the command that you want to look at from, which will be a lot more self-intuitive. Just in case you just are looking, instead of looking for something specific, you can see what everything is in there, and you don't have to worry about how it's typed or something. So if we just, for example, typed in help and ran that, it'll give you the descriptor from the command that was also available in the help list, by the way, and a handy-dandy link to the wiki. So if you click on that, it'll take you directly to the section in the wiki. Super useful. Right, while I've actually got this open, let me go ahead and open this and this so we can take a look at that later on. Alright, anyway, that's the gist of just running /commands. Super simple. While we're on simple, let's go ahead and run a passive command. So, one of the most popular ones is 42. So if we just type in 42, he just does the thing. That's literally it. Another thing that you might notice while you're goofing around in here, enjoying your visit, socializing, whatever, maybe you're having a discussion in the discussion den, maybe you're just goofing off in the memes channel, or you're trying to get a group together and looking to play, just whatever. If you type something, sometimes Fishsticks will just print a random, some amount of text to the channel. Usually this happens in one of the text chats, where people are usually having some great deal amount of conversation. Maybe in tech chat. I don't know where the last one was. Actually, we can do this. Let's do from. Really, you're not gonna let me do that? Here we go. What is going on here? What are you doing? What is... It's not going to do that, is it? Nope. Okay. Good lord. Alright, well, whatever. Sometimes Fishsticks will just, in the middle of conversation, just print out a line of text somewhere. And it usually happens in the discussion den because most people are having a lot of messages in there. But basically what's going on is a system that I implemented that basically just counts a random number of messages. I think it's anywhere between 25 and 2,500. Every time somebody sends a message to a channel that Fishsticks can see, that randomly generated number ticks down by 1. And when that number reaches 0, he prints out a randomly selected quote or message that was at some point sent in CC. I think most of them are probably pinned somewhere, but the Fishsticks has this giant list of quotes and stuff that he'll pull from. Sometimes it makes absolutely no sense at all. Other times it's staggeringly appropriate for the conversation. But it's quite funny most of the time. It adds a bit of zest to most of the channels, and I think it's great. So if you see that, that's what's going on. Right. Anyway, moving on to something just a touch more complex. We're going to talk about parameters real fast. So Bible is a really good example of this because it has a lot of parameters. So if we type in /Bible, we autofill it in for using tab. We can type in... We see 3 parameters plus 1. That means that there's 3 required parameters here, book, chapter, and verse. And then at the end, when we fill in all the required ones, we can also add an optional parameter, which we'll look at in just a second. Right, so let's go look at the documentation for Bible. Bible. This needs to be updated. Book, chapter, verse, and end verse, which is your optional parameter. So book is going to be, Genesis, John, 2 Samuel, Revelation, whatever. Put that in there. If it's a multi-book, book of the Bible, so 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, you're going to put that in here. Previously, there was a whole parameter for it. You had to type in 1 and then the book as a separate thing. You had to hyphenate it all. It was a bit of a mess. Anyway, you don't have to do that anymore. So we type in, let's just do Genesis for now. You do chapter 1, verse 1. And I'm flipping between these parameters, by the way, by just hitting tab. If I hit tab again in the last required parameter, the optional ones shall pop up. So if I go to inverse and I hit tab again and it autofills it, I can type in 5. If I don't add inverse, it's just going to give me chapter 1, verse 1 of Genesis. Now that I've added an inverse, it's going to give me verses 1 through 5 of chapter 1 of Genesis. Right, so I hit enter. It's going to send the command. It's going to give me that passage of text. Woo! Awesome. Anyway, carrying on, we're going to go 1 Samuel, chapter 1, verse 1. We're going to fill that in. We're going to go on to verse 10. Enter. Bam! More text. Super simple. Most of you who use the Bible command anyway know exactly what's going on anyway. So, you're going to get, what this is. If there's text, this is coming from the official ESV version of the Bible. That's going to have a whole bunch of footnotes, super useful for the study aspect. You're welcome to use this in any text channel, anywhere, whatever. Because it all works the same way. There's no limitations on it. Right, so that's that. Something that made a nice return in version 18 and 19. I think I came back in 18, but I fixed it in version 19 and converted it to /commands, was temp.ch. This was something that used to be really big in CC's TeamSpeak days, was the ability to create your own temporary channels. I added this function to Fishsticks after CC converted to Discord, just because sometimes people want channels to themselves. Sometimes you're doing something that doesn't necessarily have a specific voice channel for. So we're going to go in. I'm going to explain how that works, because I had a whole video tutorial on it last time, but now I think it's technically dated, but the functionality is still pretty much the same. So if we join the channel spawner and we type in temp ch, if I can type, creates temporary voice channels. You'll also see down here that there's temp name, changes the name of a temporary channel. You can only do that once you're attached to it or if you own it. Actually, is it if you own it? And we'll take a look at that in a second. All right, so you can see we got a required parameter of channel name. So we're going to call it SkyeZone, because why not? Your optional parameter for this is max users. Now, you can see also over here that it's got a description of how many voice connections to limit this chat to. That's the number of members that can be in this voice channel at any given time, including yourself. So if I add this and I set it to 5, it's going to create a voice channel with a voice limit of 5. It's going to count me as one of 5 of those people. So you can have 4 other people join you. Now, because this comes with a caveat, it will limit people that can join the channel only to a degree. Moderators and up, people who basically have the channel connections permission or something, whatever it's called, will override maximum limits. So you can't kick out mods, basically, if that's what you're thinking of. That doesn't work. All right, anyway, so if we hit enter, it's going to think about it. It's going to create the channel. It's going to tell you that he did it, and then it's going to say, you know, it's going to create the channel, move you into it, show you the limit there, as long as you're not hovering over it, and bam, you did it. Good job. I'm proud of you. Oh, pro tip, real quick. If you see anybody, well, even in your ephemeral messages, you see anybody run a / command, it's going to reply to the message. It's going to say used /Bible. In the event that you want to know what somebody used as parameters, if the command had parameters, you can click on that little blue thing there, and it will tell you what the parameters were and what they typed in for those parameters. Super useful. Kudos to AJ for pointing that one out to me, because I actually hadn't thought to click on that before. Right. Anyway, let's look at temp name real fast. Basically the same thing, except it doesn't have an optional parameter, so we're going to change this to Zone Sky, because why not? Sends you the done message. Channel name is changed. Voila. Now, here's the kicker about temporary channels. If you disconnect or change channels, it'll detect that the channel is empty and then delete the empty channel. Fishsticks cleans up after that kind of thing. It's wonderful. It's great. Right. So we're going to be done with that for now. Now let's go look at some additional resources, because that's the gist of / commands in a nutshell. If you're a newcomer, if you somehow find this as a newcomer, perhaps you haven't been assigned or recognized just yet, you won't be able to use / commands from Fishsticks. Only recognized people who have access to the entirety of the server will be able to use / commands. Bummer. No, not really. Get to know people, introduce yourself. It's pretty simple to get in. Voila, you'll be able to use / commands. You'll be able to join groups, whatever. Actually, let's take a look at that. Roles is our #1 subsystem. So if we go and look at Fishsticks info, there's a nice handy-dandy section that specifically ties to game roles. So obviously you can see here that roles will list all the game roles that you can join yourself to. And some of these aren't necessarily just game roles. So if we go down here back to the console, we type in roles. You can see that some of them aren't game roles. So let's see, like tabletoppers, for example. This is the group for people that do D&D game night stuff in the tabletop games channel, or whatever. It doesn't have to be D&D, but tabletop games. If you're interested in that, you can join that group and you'll get pinged about stuff that is relevant for tabletop games. Actually, I'm just going to leave that there for a second. We're going to talk about that. You'll notice that a lot of these say something relevant. That's because when I refactored the entirety of the roll command for version 18, and subsequently converted the thing in version 19, there was a data migration that was required, and at the time there weren't any descriptions for all the roles. So I had to fill in something for that schema, and so it just says something relevant. New roles that are added, like Bible X and Gardener, which is common amongst the Greenhouse channel, they have descriptions, but that's why everything else says something relevant. Right. You may have also noticed that just deleted itself, and that's because that was a public message. Anytime somebody uses /roles or /role list, it posts publicly for everybody to see, and it'll self-delete after some amount of time in order to keep the spam down. It's not ephemeral because when you run that command, I made it public so that everybody could see the role listings. So if somebody's looking for something to help somebody else out, it's beneficial for both of them to be able to see it instead of just trying to post screenshots around. Right. Okay. Real fast. In the event that you see something like this, Fishsticks is thinking. It's nothing dangerous, I assure you. It's not something that's going to eventually detonate. But basically what that is it's actually a bug that I need to go and fix, because that means that something was set as a deferred response and the reply was never sent. So in this specific case, I used /roles, and it printed a public message but did not respond to what's called the interaction. So you running a / command, or you reacting to a message with an emoji, or you clicking a button or something is called an interaction. Running / commands are called interactions. In the Discord API, Fishsticks is required to respond to an interaction, or else it'll think that something went wrong. Now, Fishsticks has error handling for that, and it's fine, and nothing happens. But basically what this is there's a deferred response, which means it's going to sit here for 15 minutes waiting for the command to quote-unquote finish, even though we obviously got what we wanted out of it. Now, you're free to just go ahead and dismiss this message if you see something like that, but that's something I need to fix. Ultimately, you shouldn't be seeing that at all. But in the event that you do, you're more than welcome to DM me, ping me about it, or, better yet, use the suggest command. This is a super handy command that I added way back, and basically what it is a command that allows people that don't necessarily use GitHub, which is where the code for Fishsticks is stored. It's the version control system for Fishsticks, can post suggestions, bug reports, whatever, to the repository, and it's where I'll see it. I'll get notified just about immediately, and I won't forget about it to add it to the next update or whatever, implement it at some point. Basically, how it all works is you just do /suggest, you type in a subject, like you're sending an email. You type in a subject. This is super beneficial if you just summarize the whole thing in here. So if you found a bug, it says roles command doesn't respond to deferred message. Let's go with that. See title or something like that. Hit enter. It's going to think about that. It's going to send it. It does not respond, unfortunately. So I need to fix that. Okay, great. Anyway, it'll open this. You're more than welcome to click on that and see that this was added. You can see that it's on the whiteboard. That means basically that I'm going to come in here and make sure that it gets added to one of the projects. Get Kraken boards added the queued label now. Okay, so that's a third-party system that sits there and watches it. So yes, it's queued. I'm going to go in there and I'll change the labels to like in progress or something, and it'll get implemented at some point. Anyway, moving on. let's see, what can we look at now? Let's go look at the repository in Core Foundry. So some of you may not pay wholehearted attention to the announcements channel, but recently I posted a blog post about the release of version 19, and I try to do this all the time with important development updates, you know, plans that I want to implement, things I'm looking at for the community, major releases, just basic important news. And I post these to the colorful function on CC Gaming's blog. I also subsequently post it to my own development blog called the Core Foundry, which we'll look at in just a second. But if you ever want to see the CC version of all the Fishsticks update news, you're welcome to visit here at the colorful function and see all the wonderful jazz that I post there on occasion. Granted, sometimes a whole year will go by before I actually make a post, but whatever. By the way, there are several other blogs in here that you should totally look at because they're handy. Yeah. All right. So yeah, if you join here and you go and look at the development blog, I talk about Fishsticks in here too. These are the OG posts. Sometimes there's handy information that shows up in here, like discussing Node.js's module system. Sometimes there's useful development-esque stuff that goes on in there. But yeah, that's that. Most of the relevant information about a release I post in here. I try to make it somewhat humorous to read and self-intuitive, you know, plus signs for things that got added, minus signs for things that got removed, and tildes for things that got changed. I think that's how the old Minecraft patch notes used to look. Right, anyway, give those a read. Super handy. Always links back to the GitHub repository if there's something relevant in there, which we're going to look at next. Right, so these are the commits for the GitHub repository, which is basically all the small changes that I make, major releases, whatever. But more importantly, let's just look at the main page. So this is the first thing you're going to see when you look at the GitHub repository. Most of you developer people were just like, why is this so basic? And I'm just like, okay, you know what? It's here for people to look at, so just get over it. Gives you a small look at the features, gives you code integrity, so, I mean, what all the NPM modules are, or engines, that get used by Fishsticks. At the same time, if you want to know what Fishsticks does with your data, that's literally it, right here. Most importantly, you can get a good idea of how Fishsticks works from the code level by looking at what's in here. So, if we go and look at the core Fishsticks code, this is what it looks like. So when I start Fishsticks, this thing runs and executes this code, and things happen, and it is super neat. Right. I'm going to let you dabble on that. You can explore, ask questions, whatever, by browsing the code. You can delve into the folders, look at things. I mean, explore, wander around. Maybe you'll come up with a better way to do something. Feel free to post a suggestion. But most of you will probably be looking at issues right here. These are what the suggest command opens up. You can see that it's now here, number 97. Roles command doesn't respond to deferred message, which is something that I'll look at in a bit. But the rest of these are things that I need to implement at some point in time. Slash commands. I can actually close this because it's been done. We just ran them. But yeah, so if you have a bugger post suggestion, you have a GitHub account, you're more than welcome to open these yourself, just right here in the issues thing. Most of the time, if you want to see projects, sometimes I'll open them up, and it's like a, what do they call that thing? It's like a Trello. I forgot the name of it. There's like a whole bunch of cards in a column, you move them around. That's the gist of what projects are. And when I open one for the next major release version, then we'll go and look at that. So version 18, for example, is closed. Basically, all new suggestions, fixes, things that need to be done stack up here. Things that I'm currently working on stack up here. Things that I finish get added here. Things that get scrapped or moved wind up somewhere else. That's the gist of it. And you get a nice little progress bar that tells you how many done, that kind of thing. Super useful. Right. That's the gist of the GitHub. That's the wiki. Let's see, what else can we look at? XP. Yeah, I mean, most of this is pretty self-explanatory if you just look at it, just by reading it. Fishsticks calculates XP once per minute. So if you send multiple messages per minute, only the first message in that 60-second block of time will count for XP. And there's a whole set of rules that apply to messages that determine whether you get a lower pool or a higher pool generation of XP. Let's go look at that in the code, actually. So, let's see, where did I put it? XP core. So, after you send a message, there's a bit of code in here that gets processed, and it starts here in this function, do XP. And I'm not gonna sit here and try and go line by line to explain this to you, but basically the gist of it is that it sits there and thinks, okay, is this a good message or not? Determine XP score. So let's go look at that. So basically, if the message you sent in that first 60 seconds has a handful of these scores, has an increased number of things. So it looks for punctuation. It looks for attachments. So if you attach an image, if you've got a link in there, if you used emojis, a handful of different things, how long it is, it's going to sit there and look at that. And if it's got an increased score, you'll be bumped into a higher pool that XP can generate from. And the difference is whether or not you're getting between 20 and 30 XP or 30 and 40 XP. Which I think is a function determined here. Yeah. Oh, it's 20, 30, and 30 and 40. And that's calculated once per minute. And all it does is the amount of XP that you get assigned on a level up or per message also grants you that same number of goldfish. And goldfish are going to be used later in an update for quote-unquote market operations. It's not a real market. So don't sue me. But it'll be added later on, and there's going to be a blog post and a whole fancy shebang about how it works. And there's going to be bacon wrapped goldfish, and it'll be glorious. All right. But that's the gist of that. Levels don't do anything. Just so you're aware, or you have questions, levels just mean they're basically kind of like a gauge of how active you are in the community. You can check your current level if you don't remember what it is, or you didn't see the ping when you leveled up, because they don't last forever. You can type in profile. That's something else I'm gonna fix here in a bit, is that profile is supposed to be separate from profile detailed. Detailed is supposed to be an optional parameter, but Discord API doesn't work that way. But basically, if you just run that, it's going to give you a synopsis of your levels and your FSO profile. FSO being Fishsticks Online. It's basically the database that Fishsticks stores all of the user data in for everybody. And you can actually see how many FSO member profiles are in Fishsticks by looking at this. You can see there's 189 different member records in FSO. That means that 189 people that have joined this Discord have said something or another and generated XP. They have username, their statistics counts, everything. So you can see the number of successful commands that you've run, failed commands, the number of command executions. That's just per Fishsticks, like just global Fishsticks. But the same thing applies to your own profile. That's not right. I've run several passive commands, so we need to fix that too. It's gone! Anyway, but yeah, that's that. Let's see. I think that's just about it for covering the basics of Fishsticks. I don't think there's anything else in here that we really need to look at. Oh, hey, look. I talked about the XP handler in here. You should go and read that. But that's pretty much the most of it. If you have any questions, obviously feel free to ping me. You can DM me. I think you're probably going to be able to post comments on this video, but I'm probably not going to answer comments on this video because I don't care. But yeah, so go look at the Fishsticks wiki, go look at the repository, learn. If you have suggestions, please send them to me because I'd love to think about new things to add. There's all kinds of crazy things in Fishsticks that you're probably going to find and explore, like launching a nuclear missile. That's always fun. Anyway, that's just about it for this. We're at 40 minutes, and so I'm going to wrap this up. Like I said, you got questions, please DM me, ping me. But that's everything, so I will see you around CC. Bye-bye.